Right. I can always edit the front here too. I probably will. So
Cool.
jump in. Blessings and greetings, everybody. Much love. Jesse Tree here, sending you lots of good vibrations today. I'm joined with my good buddy, Nick Wright. Nick is another alchemist, astrologer, energy worker, fasting, raw foodist, soul consciousness explorer. And I appreciate our connection and vibration. And my brother's got a lot of wisdom to share about the 5 elements. I often teach from the 4 elements, but I totally am down with the 5 elements, acknowledging ether as one of the elements. I just, sort of concentrate on that primarily. And Nick has a 5 elements philosophy he's been putting together, combined with astrology. And so I want to turn it over to him. We're going to have a jam about earth, wind, fire, water, and ether. So welcome, Nick. So glad you could join us today, brother.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It's awesome to be on with you finally. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah. Finally, dreams manifesting, enough talk, more walk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, my name's Nick Wright. I'm an astrologer and a cosmic empowerment coach, and I've been studying for over 13 years. And what I found in the astrology space is that, and this isn't all astrology and every astrologer, but I see, with astrology memes on social media, a lot of times astrology can be kind of constricted to what it's really fully capable of. And that's because, you see the memes of like, oh, Geminis are just two-faced, or Scorpios are just always sexual deviants, or something like that. And these astrology memes are funny. They can be really funny, and they can be true. And but there's just so much more to astrology. There's so much depth. And so what I seek to do with my clients and how I explain astrology is that everything in astrology has a divine principle, and everything has a quantum principle. So, for example, Gemini represents an energy of communication. And if we're experiencing this at the divine level, we're experiencing this as communicating our highest truth, communicating with love, communicating to inform, bringing the messages out to help others. But if we're kind of disconnected from that divinity, we're going to express the distorted quality of the Gemini energy, which can be all over the place and really scattered, and maybe being deceptive as well, and using that communication to manipulate others. So every sign exists on this spectrum from lower expression to higher expression. And that's not to say that that's good or bad. It's all of our own choices in a free will universe, which I believe. But I believe there are laws to this universe. And if we choose to express these lower aspects, we will have to deal with the consequences of those actions. But we're allowed to do that if we want. So yeah, that's really where my formula for astrology begins. And there's kind of a branch of astrology that talks about this, which is called evolutionary astrology. And that's really different from predictive astrology. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I'm kind of building is that one of my favorite astrologers, Stephen Forrest, he's all about the evolutionary astrology. But, in his book, he believes, we all need to eat meat. And he doesn't understand some of the things that you and I may believe in, with such like chronic living and being able to really live really healthy on plant foods and stuff like that. So I think that like when he describes Aries, it's like Aries is all about survival, and like, there's a higher aspect that he talks about, but he doesn't talk about, he kind of implies that competition and survival are the only way. And I would say that's part of the third dimension and third density, but we're all evolving and shifting into the fifth dimension, or as the law of one would call it, the fourth density. And when we go through this shift, we're actually able to express really high qualities of the signs, and we don't have to live in competition or survival. We really can all thrive, because I believe the law of abundance is also one of these loving laws of the universe.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna let you riff off of that, because
Yeah,
I'm sure you got a lot to
holding
say.
my tongue. I've been like, oh, that's so juicy, so juicy. Like all of it. I always tell people, as I'm a student of evolutionary astrology too, as a more in terms of medical astrology, uh, as an herbalist, you know, and first of all, I always tell people, as you mentioned, like this higher qualities and lower qualities of the signs. I say we're all angels, and that in our balance, we're with our angle, we all have medicine to bring to the all, you know. But when we're out of balance with our angles, when we're not in alignment with our own selves, then we start to shift, you know, and we're not honoring of like something you and I were talking about is sort of this propensity of astrologers, you know, like you were saying, to typify, you know, like all fire, you know, is just like, you know, egoistic and like self-serving, and, you know, earth signs are too, you know, stagnant, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, remembering that we all have all of the signs within us, you know, and that our sun, you know, our guiding angles are just part of our medicine in this time that we're supposed to embrace, you know, and grow into. And it is a growth process. You have to like step into the difficulty of your sign, you know, because they're all have challenges. And I see that's, you know, how these elements relate in the body, how they relate in different people and personality and soul type, but also in the body and also in plants. And another thing that really was juicy about what you were saying, I like, is this movement into fourth density and fifth dimensionality. I've been experiencing this for a while, since I moved into my breatharian and pranic practice. The last time I ate psilocybin mushrooms, which was like 2 years ago, I was in the middle of it. I had this experience. I just heard another person who had ayahuasca journey had the same experience of being born and dying 1,000 times. And I was a 5D hypercube. I was like born, birthing and dying, and infolding and exploding, and birthing and dying and infloating, exploding 1,000 times. And the mushrooms were like, we don't need to work together anymore. You're already in 5D with all the other practice you're doing. We can microdose if you like, but we're good, you know? So that's been the experience. And I think it's coming into the plant life, and we're absorbing it, and it's coming into us through the light frequencies. And so I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit. Yes. Yeah, the electric, the biophotonic, you know, foods, and these awareness practices, you know, like bringing in qigong and meditation and sexual energy cultivation and etc. So I know these are all heartstrings we both share, so I want to not hog the mic anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, that there's so much content in what you're saying, and so many threads to go off of with what you're saying. And yeah, and I would say I totally agree with you that in a chart, we have all the 12 signs, all these 12 quantum potentials that I believe we really need to master all of them, or at least love and understand and accept them, because these are the archetypes that are in our world. And if we think, God, Geminis are all this way because we had a bad relationship with a Gemini, we're going to typify Geminis until we heal that. So, and I think when we see the planets in the chart, like you said, that's when we know, oh, if I have the sun in Aries, then Aries is going to play a more vital role in my life. But it does not to say that if I have no planets in Taurus, that Taurus doesn't matter. And I would say, yeah, so in talking about the electricity, this is why I use I like to talk about the 5 elements, because people don't know in astrology, there's the 4 elements and there's 12 signs, and 3 signs each are associated with one of the elements. So Aries, Leo, Sagittarius is fire, Gemini, Aquarius, Libra is air, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio is water, and then Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn's earth. So the reason I add the 5th element of ether is, and what is ether? Ether represents that space between the spaces, and this this quantum field of probability, and it allows us to kind of be connective to all the four elements. It's just this overarching consciousness element that allows us to unify all of the elements. And in my model, each of these elements has a divine principle, a soul ability, and an ego distortion. So for ether, the divine principle would be unity, right? And unity is this fifth dimension, fourth density consciousness. And then the ego distortion, of course, is separation. And it's not bad. It's just it's an experience that we have while we're on the track of evolution. And then we have a soul ability. I like to say the soul ability is kind of in the middle of these two things. The divine principle is the higher thing that we're kind of aiming towards. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not in unity consciousness all the time, but I'm aiming towards that. And my soul ability is awareness. That's how I step into it. I become aware and I can connect through my awareness. And sometimes I get out of it and I go into these states, and that's part of the process too. And as we'll explore further, we'll talk about the other elements, and particularly water, which is I think the one that we're lacking the most in the earth right now.
I could see that emotion, right? And I see this whole thing also, you saying of like, the distortions of these are not bad. It's just the different parts of the sine wave, the different parts of the yin yang. You have to know the depth to know the height, and as bad as things are, they're equally as good, and as good as things are, they're equally as bad, in terms of our perception. And that's also just a judgment, right? So, and I love what you said about, and this idea of bringing in ether as the unifying concept. To me, this is, like you were beginning to allude to, the electrical principle of the universe. I think is thought. I think it's consciousness, and we're all imbued with this same divine awakened intelligence, the same capacity. Everyone has the same abilities. We just have different, because of our angles that we chose pre-life, for a soul evolution, right? Isn't this a thread of evolutionary astrology? Like your sun sign is like your soul path, your soul, like solar, and the path of the sun through that sign is going to imbue you with that path. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit. And just.
Yes, absolutely. And I would also,
no,
yeah, absolutely. And also with like the, and in Ayurveda, they order it in the ether, air, fire, water, earth. And, ether is the throat, air is the heart, and fire is the solar plexus, and then water is the sacral, and then earth is the root. And that's one ordering system in Ayurvedic philosophy. And that's why I think, and then in the doshas, there's air, it's space and air, or ether and air. They're put together for the Vata dosha. So there's, I think I think you talking about air and ether, it being this, is because those are the closest things to each other.
Right.
I just separate them because nothing is actually separate, right? We just talk about things in different ways, and the reason I separate them is because I think of ether as that electrical principle awareness that connects all these things, and then it goes into the air. The air element for me is like the mind, me talking to you and questioning things and searching for truth, more of the dialogue and the verbal capabilities, and the thinking in that way. And we can talk about air. We can talk about well, I can answer your question as well before I dive into air, which is, for me, my sun sign is in the air sign of Gemini, which is why I communicate the way that I communicate.
And it's
what you say?
Time right now, so it's appropriate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the idea there is like, so for me, my Gemini is in the 12th house. My sun is in the 12th house in Gemini. So, and it's conjuncting Jupiter. So this is like the nitty gritty technical details of astrology that I can help people with if I work with them. But that for me is like, I feel vital. I feel in my soul essence when I am teaching Jupiter about spiritual matters, 12th house, So this is really cool when we get into the technical details, because we start to see really scarily accurate things about our lives.
Yes.
And I'll just preface the air element and just say, so what I say is air is the mind and the divine principle is truth. So we're aiming towards truth. The ego distortion is illusion, and that's the lies and the deceptions. And then the ability is inquiry, questioning, and there's whole practices built on self-inquiry. So that's how I like to categorize the air element in the cosmic empowerment coaching model. So I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on this.
I love it. I love it. And just the whole thing of the connection with mind and ether and air and Gemini, valuing that whole thing of valuing all the sides, like talking about these values, how vital breath is, especially as a breatharian. Like you can go quite a long time without food. You can go less long without water, but try going very long at all without breath. That's a whole nother trick. Your breath is connected to your consciousness too. All of us doing breath work and meditation to center our mind and concentrate and focus and, do this self-inquiry, self-reflection, so that we can grow, how much the breath and the air is vital, for this process. It's the most important part. It's that same sine wave, that yin yang is the in-breath and out-breath of life. And so we don't judge our out-breath as bad and our in-breath is good, like we judge our experiences as positive and negative, and if we can, the meditator through the breath can get this, instead of going like, yay, everything's awesome, oh my God, it sucks, hey, it's more like, hey, it's cool, yeah, well, yeah, like it's more of an even keel. So this is what we're searching for. And this is how, my whole passion is the harmonization of the elements. Like you were saying, we have all the 12 signs, we have all the elements within us. We need to understand them, not only because they're reflections in our world, but they're literally inside of us. And if we are in disharmony with, I don't like Scorpio, I don't like Capricorn, whatever, like, you're gonna be having, that's gonna show up in all your reflections with those people in the reality, but it's also gonna be something inside of yourself that you're always like in friction with and losing energy on, So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
We got a little time delay. So I want to ask you to do your whole breakdown of each, I keep on like grabbing the points too much, but because they're fun. But going through, like we did ether and we did air, and you were talking about how we need to work with water more, and as a healing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And one cool thing I want to say about the sine wave philosophy is, what's interesting is when we are in that centered harmonization place, it will be experienced as positive by us. So I think that's my whole point of my astrology is it's actually all positive. It's actually all enjoy. It's actually joy in the higher states are natural to us. And it's when we're in that separation that we're kind of like, I need the next thing. I got it. Now I'm bad. Now that, but when we can just live in more balance, it's experiences like, wow, life is actually just enjoyable. So I'll just say that.
Thank you for that.
And then
my whole teaching is that this is a heaven realm, and we're heaven beings. When we're experiencing our greatest joy, we're spreading it, and we're helping everyone else. So that's what we're supposed to do. Anyway, let you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. So because people can think like, oh, I don't want to be in the middle, that feels boring, but it's like, no, you're actually gonna love that. But so let me go into water. Water is the emotions. And what's the divine principle of water? It's love. That's the emotion that we can trust in. We can relax into this field of love that exists all around us. We know this is true because what happens when we meditate for long enough? What else exists? Just the bliss and the love and the high vibe feelings. So what is the ego distortion? It's attachment. When we're attached to things that are transient and impermanent, right, rather than attached to things that are eternal, such as source, divine itself, divine him herself, that energy. If we can really rest in that, for me, that's my belief, is that
you're here,
that's something that we can hold on to and not experience that loss. And we can love and have healthy attachments in our lifetime, but we have to recognize the impermanence. So the soul ability for water is going to be flow. And flow is what allows us to go through the emotions, because I see a problem with new age communities and spiritual communities and psychology and personal development. Yet don't feel the fear, don't feel the grief, don't feel the pain, don't feel anything negative. Just do your power move, or just yell the affirmation and just make it like overpower your inner child, your wounded self, overpower that. And I'm saying, no. Trust that there is love everywhere, but also realize you're a child of, I believe I'm a child of God. That's what I like to say. So I rest, I feel the emotions, and then they're purified. And then I do experience the positive. That's how I transmute and alchemize, so that I can feel those high vibe feelings.
Yes, I love that. That's so important. The way I understand it, both from my experience and my study, is that you will not clear a trauma until you go through it fully, until all the emotions, all the feelings of it will be stuck in your body for years sometimes, unless you go through it all the way, go through the unpleasant parts. It's important to keep always your mind and attitude focused on the highest vibe possible, right? And to be moving there, but don't suppress emotion. Don't suppress anything. Let it flow. I love that. That's what this heart energy field is. It's this electricity. You're going to stop the flow of electricity. It's like, no, let it flow, So I love that. That's perfect. Very clear, very astute. Thank you, Nick. I like that. So let's hear about.
So what would you like to hear?
Let's hear about fire. I want to hear fire.
Fire?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So fire is the life force. Okay. So in the four elements, life force, mind, emotions, the body, those are all impermanent. Whereas the quantum, the ether, that's eternal. That's the way I look at it. So, because life force is like, it's like your battery. It's your energy. Are you charged up? Are you lit up to go pursue whatever you're going to pursue, to do the things that you're going to do?
Passion.
And we're going to talk about Earth, which I say, yeah, I actually make a case that Earth is action. I'll tell you that why I say that. Because Earth is like the actual physical manifestation, but fire is like the will and like why you're doing the action, and like, and that's what's actually going to be needed to take the action. Because if you don't have fire, is vital. It's vital. It's our vital animating life force. So I say the divine principle is purpose. So when we're lit up by some kind of purpose, we are charged up. I feel lit up by talking about this to everybody, because this is what I love to do, and I feel that. So, and I say that the distortion is control. So when we're too in our power and we're using it away from the divine, we want to control others and dominate others and control and dominate situations. And then I say the soul. And then I say the soul ability. It's okay. And then I say the soul ability is desire, which, that can be against some other philosophies. But I make the case that we really, desire is not a bad thing. It's like us getting on this call. We really desire to create this together. You desire to build a beautiful garden, and it's enjoyable. I'm not saying desire in the form of like attachments or like needing to clamor onto things, that kind of desire. I'm talking pure desire, some things that we're really just excited about doing. That's fire.
I love that. All that resonates on every single level with me. In my experience, being a quadruple Aries, you know, is like tons of fashion desire. I mean, passion and will. You know, it's more about grounding them into action. You know, and you know, the propensity to, you know, when things aren't going well and it feels really terrible and out of my control, I want to control it. You know. And that's something I'm working with even now, like just trying to release, you know, in terms of like, you know, I'm a father, might have teens, you know, they're growing into their new life, you know, into their own life, you know, and it's a propensity of all parents because you practice tending this being for so many years, there becomes this, you know, the points about attachment are very important because, and desire, I desired to have a family. Buddha talks about, you know, we hear in Buddhist philosophy about desire being the root of suffering, but that's kind of not very well
Right.
uh, information. He's talking about inappropriate desire, not your desire to do good things, you know. So there's a distortion.
I'm so glad you said that. Sorry, I'm just keep going, but I'm so glad you said that because that was my misunderstanding with the Buddhist philosophy, and where I was like, well, if you're meditating on a mountain, that's still you're desiring to be at one with God. You're still desiring something. You're always desiring something. You can't really get away from that. But what you're saying, Buddha's saying is you're going into higher desires, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Well, what you can do is you can work towards your contentment. And then your contentment is like a springboard to a whole nother level of joyful experience. But even that at its root has this desire, you know, it's like the, you know, the Fibonacci spiral or the light at the end of tunnel that's bringing you toward it, you know, it's like a great attractor, you know, so it's not a bad thing whatsoever. My desire to be a pranic being is like really improved my life, you know, to work with sexual energy cultivation practice and breath work and diet and all these things have just made my life so much better. So, you know, I think that's really key points, you know, and I like how you're talking about, so we were talking about air and the importance of air and breath work and how, you know, vital a force that is of water, how your body is 70% water, or, you know, the earth is 70% water, the cosmos is roughly 70% hydrogen, right? So this element of water, this as above below, it's, you know, in us and outside of us. And then same with the fire. Fire is also your digestion, you know, your digestive agni in Ayurveda. So this is all part of the electrical principles, right? Electricity is fire and it conducts in water, and, you know, oxygenation, you know, improves fire, you know, like, or electricity. It's all electric. We're an electric universe, and the ether is this electricity that is the connective part. There's only one of us here, you know. That's why I like the Rastafarian I, you know, because you are me and I am you. So fun stuff.
Yo, thanks for that. I'm really stoked up because now you're making the model make a lot more sense to me.
Oh, wow.
Because all this came in a download in the shower. And I was like, wait a second, there is a divine, like, I don't know. I really feel strongly about this model, but the way you're saying it's ether is electricity, that's really cool. And there's a lot more that you're saying that I want to replay this and watch. Yeah, I love that. I would say too, like, and fire. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to send you a video that's just an audio book of the Electric Universe by, who is the guy? I want to say it's William Russell, something like that. He was a physicist from like the 40s, and he detailed how everything from the chemical reactions in plants to our thoughts to emotions and the sun is all electric. Everything is electric. So it's electric universe.
Super cool. Yeah. And
Magnetism
there's
is.
a show on Gaia with the same title, actually.
Mhm.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but there's a show also on Gaia. And one of our mutual coaches or mentors, Ellie Tom, talks about this a lot too. And I just haven't correlated it with ether in the way that you're talking about. So very cool. And I want to read that book. So please send it over. And let me talk about Earth now.
Yes.
Earth, this final element. And I think Earth gets the worst rap in astrology. I think it's, Earth signs are boring or they're materialistic, and well, they're practical and they're stable, but it's like it's not as exciting. So in my model, I say that the divine principle of Earth is manifestation. So that there's a lot of meanings to it. So everything we're looking at is the Earth element. That's God's manifestation, if you want to say. My body is Earth, the Earth element, the manifestation. If I have a pain in my arm, oh, that's a manifestation of something unhealed. So what am I going to find out there? You and I talking is a manifestation. So it's divine principle of Earth because you co-create and you allow manifestation in your life. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. And that's why I say the ego distortion of Earth is actually routine. And I like to use, if you actually look up routine in the dictionary, it has a negative connotation of being kind of stuck in a rut on autopilot in habit patterns. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I say the soul ability is action, and that's actually like getting out there. And when you're lit up by your vision of fire and you're healing your emotions and you're aiming towards your highest truth and you're connected in unity consciousness, you're taking actions in alignment with that, and you're creating your reality. So I say the Earth element is more about creating your reality and making it real in this dimension now. And it's the most exciting element for me, because I don't have it in my chart, but when I really focus on it, it's that's what makes life worth living. Really, that's what makes it real. Why do we have these bodies right now? The bodies aren't bad. The bodies are beautiful. And I think in spirituality, sometimes the body and the physicality can be not focused on. It's like, oh, the body doesn't matter. It's like, why this doesn't matter? This beautiful earth that we're living on. No, it's amazing. And you're into gardening and growing on this plant, and that's all divine nature of Earth.
I love that. Yes, definitely. And I love that you keyed it into gardening, that, because that's, just so, keen in my heart. And I see this, I work with this as all these elements as a healing practice, being physically out in the garden with your feet on the ground. You're absorbing negative ions. You're absorbing probiotic. You're, working on the land. Haile Selassie talked about the highest profession is to do agriculture, to grow things, and the root word of husband, is husbandry. It used to be connected with your ability to provide for your community, and the stability and support. I think of earth element support and the crystallization of ideas into reality, or that this is a crystal. This is a carbon silica crystal, piezoelectric, it's a resonator. Your skeleton's a resonator, superconductor, semiconductor, and I think that's it. Whatever the case, it's more this electrical principle. You need this. And I really like your point about the spiritual community kind of not putting enough love and focus in the body. The body is beautiful. I'm looking at a spirit right now. What is spirituality if not us interacting, or all of these, as Ellie Tom and the ancients would talk about, as above, so below. All of these plants around here behind me, They're all fire encapsulated in crystal as a representation of the projection, a fractal connection, of that's it. Like basically that tree is a cosmos or a galaxy, you know, and this one over here is a star, and so to bring that our spirituality into this world, it's almost like we want to disconnect it, and so that earth element is that ground. I see this with a lot of people in the spiritual community, all up here in the ethers, not knowing how they're going to make anything happen, in terms of their abundance or their health, how they get centered with their emotions, their family. They're just like, oh, one day it's going to be this, and they're all up in the cloud. Like, get down into, like, let's just do some stuff. Let's try some stuff. It may not work, but that's how you're going to find out. So I love that. That's a great way to put it. I totally resonate. That you're actually helping change my perceptions about the elements. They're things I recognize and see, but now it's like sharper focus. So thank you.
Yes, and that's when I know the call is divinely orchestrated, because it's not me trying to promote my business. I mean, it's me truly learning and discussing and sharing what is I really love, and learning from everything you've said. And I think it's been a symbiotic relationship in that, and it's actually been a theme in the cosmos. I had a really cool time with a friend yesterday, and we were able to do a micro dosing experience and kind of release a lot of barriers that we had in our own relationship. And that had to do with different styles, because the point too is here is, I think these are the elements that make up our world. And if a fire sign can't love a water sign, that's not a good thing. In astrology, they say, oh, those are difficult elements to be together. But that's why we have this ether element now. We have this unity consciousness. Air and earth can go together, because air is the idealistic, earth is the realistic, and they can go together just as good as air and fire and water and earth. And fire is outward and water is inward, and we can learn how to bring those into harmony too. So that's really, and there's a really cool show on Nickelodeon called Avatar, a children's show that encapsulates these principles masterfully.
I love Avatar. Avatar is great. And I love what you said too, like the ideal becomes real. This was an idea first, and now here I'm holding one, right? So this isn't paradox. This isn't antithetical. This is coincidentia positorum. That's what they talk about in alchemy. All truths are half truths. Everything you think to be true is, but so is the other side of it. So when we can start to recognize this more and this relinquish our judgment more, so that we're just seeing more from our heart more clearly and moving with that space of that fire space of like your thrill, love, joy, compassion, the heart space of water, the realness of earth, and the ideal of air. So we're not like just keeping like down here. We're like expressing all of it, we're grounded, we're idealistic, we're, in love, and we're happy, so we can't be fulfilled, but we have to allow for the harmonization of these elements.
Well said.
Thank you. So I think my Zoom might be running out soon, so I'm gonna want to wrap us up. Before we go, I want to get everybody your contact information. If people want an astrological reading or some coaching from you, how do they get a hold of you, Nick?
So my website is cosmicempowerment.com, and my Facebook is Nick Wright, and my Instagram is cosmic_empowerment_by etheric. But you just type in cosmic empowerment, it should come right up. And IG is where I'm the most active on social, but also Facebook. And yeah, just send me a message, and I do natal chart readings where I write you a 10 to 12 page report of all the planets and all the signs, what your elemental balance is, what your mode balance is, what aspects you have. And then we do an hour consultation. And then if you want to go really deep and work with me long term to start to master the areas of your life, these five elemental areas, we can get on a call and talk about what that would look like.
Awesome. 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 Well, thank you so much again for joining me today, brother. I really love your breakdown. I look forward to future collaborations. We're going to be doing some stuff, Nick and I. We got some stuff we like that we share, some music and some, you know, just all of it. I love you, brother. I got to just say it like that. That's what it is. So let's have fun. We'll be creating more in the future. Hope everyone out there got something out of this. Sending you tons of good love. God bless.